Hi there, I'm Darcy, and I'm going to bring you along with me on my hysterectomy journey. But mine's just a little bit different than what the typical hysterectomy journey is like on YouTube. And so I decided that I wanted to make some videos to help those of you who might be in the same boat that I am, to share my experience that maybe it will help you in the future. But I have a condition that's a little different than what the typical person who has been doing videos is doing. Most of them are running for between their late 20s and early to mid 40s and are having hysterectomies because of endometriosis or fibroids or some other conditions like that. But I don't fall into that same category. And although all of the recovery things helped greatly when I was trying to investigate to see what it was going to be like for recovery, and I'm grateful for everyone sharing their stories, mine's a little different. And I know that there are probably many of you that might be out there that are having the same kind of journey that you might want to, I don't know, talk about and engage with and kind of get some camaraderie. So I have endometrial hyperplasia without atypia. I'm going to be 60 years old this year, and I am obese. So those are all things that are playing in together that make my journey with this hysterectomy a little different than everyone else's. I am going to be sharing some very specific details about what's going on with my life because I think information is important, and I don't want to sugarcoat anything, nor do I want to not talk openly about what's happening with me. So be aware that yes, I'm going to be talking about details that have happened. And I'm going to be very upfront. I have not been to see a gynecologist since 2019. Once COVID came and we really couldn't do those things easily. We also had some conditions at our home where I was taking care of family, and because I was working 60, 70, 80 hours a week trying to support the family, I just kept putting off what I needed. And at that point, nothing was wrong. I mean, I wasn't seeing anything that was different. I didn't see anything that was abnormal. And it was like, my mom went through this. I'm going through this. This is pretty normal. Until September, when it wasn't normal anymore. I started having periods that would never stop. And sometimes it would be really heavy periods for quite a while. And then they would just become light periods. And then it would spot for a long time. I might get a 2 or 3 day break in there, and then I would start bleeding. Hyperplasia can be caused by a great many things. Mine, when I went through all the symptoms, through all the causes, mine is obesity. Because when you're obese, it affects your hormones, and so I am producing way more estrogen than progesterone, maybe not even enough at all. And which means that it's encouraging my endometrial lining to thicken. What is normal is supposed to be, I think, 4 to 5 millimeters. When I went to the ER, I'm pretty sure that doctor there said I was at 14, but my gynecologist says I'm at 21. So it's very abnormal, it's very thick, and so we're coming into issues. So from September to November, I was realizing that something was going on, and I needed to go see a GYN. But because we were about to end a year, and I hadn't used any insurance at all that year, I was going to have to pay all of the deductible, and our deductible is very high. And then I was going to have to turn around and pay it all over again at the first of the year. So I said, I can wait 6 more weeks. I can wait 6 more weeks. I can do this. So when January came, we got our new insurance, and I had to use an HMO. I'm self-employed. And so I had to get an HMO, which means that I have to get a referral to anybody other than my PCP. So I got the appointment with my PCP so that I could get a referral for a GYN at that point. And so I went away for a week of work. And at the end of that week, it was a hard physical labor day that day. And at the end of the day, once everybody had left, I felt that I had passed a pretty large clot. And I did that for the next 45 minutes or so. More and more of them, and so much bleeding. And I was scared to death. It was already getting pretty late in the evening, so I grabbed a couple of towels from the house that I was at, put them in my car, and did everything I could to try to make it to the ER. So I got to the ER. They let me to, right in the beginning, this is a problem. We're going to go ahead and do an ultrasound, and they chose not to do a vaginal one. They did an external ultrasound, which I found out later from my gynecologist that it was probably better to have that one anyway. And they said, you have no fibroids, which in the back of my mind, when I started researching about what it could be, like for the whole half hour I did it and then stopped because I was getting a little scared. I assumed that I probably had fibroids, and they said, no, there are no fibroids. We see no tumors, we see no growths, we see nothing. However, this is something that you need to go take care of. Don't let this wait until June or July before you go see a doctor. You need to go see a doctor now. didn't know what it was yet because they still hadn't given me any kind of diagnosis, but he's like, you need to go see a GYN and see it. So at that point, I took advantage of the fact that our hospital system has a referral and called that office and was like, can you help me find somebody, because everybody that I'm calling won't see me until June or July. May or June, because I'm a new patient coming into anybody. And my old gynecologist didn't take my insurance. So it was trying to find somebody, and we were not having any luck. Nobody could fit me in. And even though it was in what I would have considered a more emergent case, nobody would fit me in because it was a new patient. And so I ended up, then my appointment for my PCP came up, and so he did an emergency referral for me. And so within 24 hours, I had an appointment with a GYN at that point. And it was the same one that we've been trying to get into the most at the ER, the one that they had recommended. And so I got in. So in that appointment, I went in, and she took me into her office. We talked a little bit about the results from the ER. She asked a few questions of me, and then said, okay, let's go into the exam room. So we went into the exam room, and she asked me if I had taken any pain meds before I came, and I was like, I didn't realize I needed to. And I knew that I was getting a biopsy because the ER doctor had said they'll give you a biopsy, but I just didn't think to take anything beforehand. So we went through everything, and then she went, okay, I'm done. And I was like, wait, what? You did it already? She goes, yeah, I'm done. And I said, I didn't feel anything. And I know that's atypical, because I know a lot of people, in looking at the videos online, have talked about biopsies hurt a lot. Mine didn't. Mine didn't hurt at all. I do not know why. I do not know if she used any kind of internal pain reliever of any kind. I don't know the process she used. I know there are a couple of different ways to do a biopsy or to take the samples. I don't know which one she used. I wasn't in the state of mind to ask her, so how did you do that? And then she wrapped up and was going to walk out the door, and I said, hold on, I have many questions. And she said, okay. So she sat down in front of me and sat and answered all of my questions. As we talked about this, I knew that there was a possibility that this was going to be cancerous. And she said, I don't want to go into what we would do next, but I would send you off to a gynecologist, an oncologist at that point, to deal with it. If it's not cancer, there are some options for treatment, and she didn't really go through all of them, but she just said there are some options, and then we'll determine that. And she let me ask any questions that I had. So she said, what's going to happen is that in 2 weeks, you'll come back to the office. If the results come back by then, and it's cancerous, I will call you. It will be me calling you, and then we'll talk about what those next steps are. If it's not, we'll meet in 2 weeks, and we'll talk about what the treatment plan is at that point. So within about 4 days, I think it was 4, maybe 5 days, the results had already come back. And it was not cancerous. And it was diagnosed as endometrial hyperplasia without atypia. I always have to try to remember that. I don't know if it's simple or complex. There are 2 versions of it. I don't know which one I have. I don't know how much they really matter or how that affects things. And I'll probably find out more about that later. And at that point, it was not cancerous. That's all I cared about. It's not cancer. It's not cancer. Okay, there are some treatments. We'll take care of this. It'll be fine. So 2 weeks later, when I go in a week and a half later, when I go in for my checkup, she said, okay, let's talk about the next steps. And I said, well, I've been doing some reading, and these are the things that I've seen for treatments. And she goes, yeah, so what did you think that you want to do? And I said, well, after looking at what this might happen, it will still all end up that I might still have to have a hysterectomy. So I would rather just go ahead and have the hysterectomy. And she goes, that's what my thing's going to be for you. Because I do remember asking her during the exam if ablation was going to be an option, because that's something that I had asked about like years ago. Can I do one of those? And because we opted not to at that point. It was just kind of one of those things. I do not want to have a period anymore. Is that an option? And we opted not to do it. She goes, oh no, ablation is not an option for you. And I just was like, okay. She goes, you're postmenopausal. And I was taken back by that because I assumed I was still perimenopausal because of my mother's age and the way that things were happening with me. And she goes, no, you're likely postmenopausal. Okay, great. Let's get this started. Let's get the ball rolling. And she's like, but hold on. And I was taken aback. And so she said at that point, typically I would do the surgery. It would be me doing it, and we would go ahead. But what I want to do is have you seeing an oncological gynecologist. And that just stopped me in my tracks. And I looked at her and I said, I thought I don't have cancer. And she said, we trust the test. We always trust the test. But in an overabundance of caution, I want you to go see one, because the thickening of your endometrial lining is so thick that we want to make sure. And I was just like, holy crap, I thought I was out from under that cloud, you know, and that's how I looked at it. It's like, okay, I don't have cancer, let's just move on. But all of a sudden it's back in the picture. And she said, we trust this test that you don't have cancer. We're doing this to make sure, just in case. And I said, okay, so what's different? And she said that with an oncologist that's doing this surgery, she can take a frozen section, I'm thinking those are the words that she used, and then test it right then while you're still under, and get an immediate result back. And so that if she feels like, or he or she, it happens to be she in my case, if she feels like that they need to take out some lymph nodes around the section to also test those, they can do that while they're already in there, and you don't have to have a second surgery. And I said, okay, all right, that's what we'll do then. In the meantime, she gave me what is called Megastrol. It's a low dose progesterone that is typically given to people in higher doses for cancer. And it could also be given to people who need to gain weight from cancer treatment. I think I'm understanding this correctly. And so I was kind of like, but wait, she goes, it's just a low dose progesterone. It's fine. We want your endometrium to stop growing. And so this is going to help stop the growth. I said, okay, cool. I'll take it. And so then there was a little bit of hoopla about trying to get into the oncologist, and I had to go through a couple of them to get to one that could actually take my insurance and stuff. And so I have an appointment to go see the oncologist at some point to get the next steps done. In the course of taking the progesterone, there have been some side effects. Sweating, man, the sweating. It's like I'm having hot flashes again without the flush. It's just, well, no, there is a small flush, but I am sweating again like I remember doing when I was in perimenopause. And it's just like, ugh, I hate this. I hate this so much. At that point, that's where I am. It's without atypia means that it's a pre-cancerous condition that given time can become cancer. It's less likely than the one with atypia. I think that's the difference between the two. But we just want to be cautious that there is nothing else happening inside of me that could be a problem. And my understanding is I'm having a radical hysterectomy, which everything is going to be removed. Cervix, tubes, ovaries, uterus, everything. I will have nothing left by the time I'm done with this. And so that is my understanding. I'll find out more, I'm sure, at the appointment, but that was my understanding from the gynecologist, was that this was going to be a radical one. I don't need my ovaries. It's best to remove them so that I don't develop ovarian cancer in the future. And my cervix, also the same reason, is that why leave something there that could become a problem later. So I wanted to share this journey because in watching all of the videos of hysterectomy recoveries from people, and I even watched about 3 actual robotic surgeries, because as far as I know, that's what I'm having is laparoscopic. I don't know if it's going to be with the Da Vinci robot or if it's going to be regular laparoscopic, because I thought that probably wasn't going to be a possibility because of my weight. I figured I was going to have it open, and she said, you shouldn't. No, we should be able to do this laparoscopically. I just knew that what I had was different than what everybody else has had. And I didn't know how it was going to affect how things happened for me. And I know that my age is going to play into this because I'm older. My weight is going to play into this because recovery is going to be a little harder. I know there's higher risks involved during surgery because of it. So I wanted to share what was going on with me for those of you who might be going through the same sort of things that are a little different than what you typically see on YouTube. So if you have questions about anything, I'll answer everything that I can possibly answer. I am not a medical professional. I can't give you advice about the medical part. I can only share what's happening with me. And I just know that it can become, I can learn from you, and I would love to hear your experiences. So until I see you next time, happy health.